Trinadapi Sunichena Tororiva Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Hare Nama Hare Nama Hare Namaiva Kevalam Kalo Nastyeva 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 Gatiranyata. So we're going to have a class on the Bhagavad-gītā As It Is, as presented by the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Tonight we are starting a new chapter, so it's good that you came today. We're studying chapter 15. Chapter 15 is known as Puruṣottama-yoga, translated as the yoga of the Supreme Person. So I would like everyone to repeat the Sanskrit line by line after me. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Urdhvamulam Madha Shakam Ashvatang Prahur Avyayam Chandangsi Yasya Parnani Yastang Veda Savedavit. Now we do the word for word meanings. Please repeat. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Urdhvamulam, with roots above, Adha, downwards, Shakam, branches, Ashvatham, a banyan tree, Prahu, is said, Avyayam, eternal, Chandangsi, the Vedic hymns, Yasya, of which, Parnani, the leaves, Ya, anyone who, Tam, that, Veda, knows, Sa, he, Vedavit, the knower of the Vedas. Translation, if you would please respond. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. Purport: after the discussion of the importance of Bhakti Yoga, one may question, what about the Vedas? It is explained in this chapter that the purpose of Vedic study is to understand Krishna. Therefore, one who is in Krishna consciousness, who is engaged in devotional service, already knows the Vedas. The entanglement of this material world is compared here to a banyan tree. For one who is engaged in fruitive activities, there is no end to the banyan tree. He wanders from one branch to another, to another, to another. The tree of this material world has no end. And for one who is attached to this tree, there is no possibility of liberation. The Vedic hymns meant for elevating oneself are called the leaves of this tree. This tree's roots grow upward because they begin from where Brahma is located, the topmost planet of this universe. If one can understand this indestructible tree of illusion, then one can get out of it. This process of extrication should be understood. In the previous chapters, it has been explained that there are many processes by which to get out of the material entanglement. And up to the 13th chapter, we have seen that devotional service to the Supreme Lord is the best way. Now, the basic principle of devotional service is detachment from material activities and attachment to the transcendental service of the Lord. The process of breaking attachment to the material world is discussed in the beginning of this chapter. The root of this material existence grows upward. This means that it begins from the total material substance, from the topmost planet of the universe. From there, the whole universe is expanded with so many branches representing the various planetary systems. The fruits represent the results of the living entity's activities, namely religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. Now, there is no ready experience in this world of a tree situated with its branches down and its roots upward. But there is such a thing. That tree can be found beside a reservoir of water. We can see that the trees on the bank reflect upon the water with their branches down and roots up. In other words, the tree of this material world is only a reflection of the real tree of the spiritual world. This reflection of the spiritual world is situated on desire, just as a tree's reflection is situated on water. Desire is the cause of things being situated in this reflected material light. One who wants to get out of this material existence must know this tree thoroughly through analytical study. Then he can cut off his relationship with it. This tree, being the reflection of the real tree, is an exact replica. Everything is there in the spiritual world. The impersonalists take Brahman to be the root of this material tree, and from the root, according to Sankhya philosophy, come Prakriti, Purusha, then the three gunas, then the five gross elements, Pancha Mahabhuta, then the 10 senses, Dashendriya, mind, etc. In this way, they divide up the whole material world into 24 elements. If Brahman is the center of all manifestations, then this material world is a manifestation of the center by 180 degrees, and the other 180 degrees constitute the spiritual world. The material world is the perverted reflection. So the spiritual world must have the same variegatedness, but in reality. The Prakriti is the external energy of the Supreme Lord, and the Purusha is the Supreme Lord himself. And that is explained in Bhagavad-gītā. Since this manifestation is material, it is temporary. A reflection is temporary, for it is sometimes seen and sometimes not seen. But the origin from whence the reflection is reflected is eternal. The material reflection of the real tree has to be cut off. When it is said that a person knows the Vedas, it is assumed that he knows how to cut off attachment to this material world. If one knows that process, he actually knows the Vedas. One who was attracted by the ritualistic formulas of the Vedas is attracted by the beautiful green leaves of the tree. He does not exactly know the purpose of the Vedas. The purpose of the Vedas, as disclosed by the personality of Godhead himself, is to cut down this reflected tree and attain the real tree of the spiritual world. Krishna Kumar Dasa, you would like to ask a question at this time. All right? Yes. That much you understood. So should we go line by line so I explain? All right, we will do that. All right, so let's go over the purport, line by line. So after the discussion of the importance of Bhakti Yoga, so that was chapter 12, correct? Chapter 12, which was the end of the middle 6 chapters, which are the most important. All that chapter 12 is about Bhakti Yoga. So now Prabhupada is saying, one may question, what about the Vedas? And you know what is the Vedas. Okay. It is explained in this chapter that the purpose of Vedic study is to understand Krishna. That he's referring to verse number 15 in this chapter. Go to verse 15 in this chapter, and you'll see why he's saying the purpose of Veda is to understand. What is the translation to 15? There it is. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. So that's why he's saying that. Okay? Next sentence. Therefore, one who is in Krishna consciousness, who is engaged in devotional service, already knows the Vedas. Is that clear now? In other words, we already heard in chapter 11 at the end, second to the last verse, and go to the second to the last verse in chapter 11, just to substantiate what Prabhupada is saying. In the end of chapter 11, the second to the text number 54. What is the translation to 54? So one who is engaged in devotional service can understand Krishna as he is, correct? Right? And we just said that the whole purpose of the Vedas is to understand Krishna, correct? So you see how it's very logical. Let us continue. So now he says, the entanglement of this material world is compared here to a banyan tree. You have obviously seen a banyan tree in your life. So you know how all the branches go this way and that way, and it's very extensive, correct? For one who is engaged in fruitive activities. So fruitive activities means not engaged in devotional service, right? You understand what is fruitive activities. If you're not engaged in devotional service, then you're working in order to enjoy the results of your work, correct? That's fruitive activities, okay? So for one who is engaged, there is no end to the banyan tree. And as he says here, he wanders from one branch to another, to another, to another. Because he's not making any spiritual advancement. He's taking birth after birth, which would be like going to branch, another body, in order to fulfill fruitive desires. Good? All right? The tree of this material world has no end, and for one who is attached to this tree, there is no possibility of liberation. Because if you're attached, right, you have to let go, then there's a chance of liberation. All right? The Vedic hymns meant for elevating oneself are called the leaves of this tree. This tree's roots go upward because they begin from where Brahma is located, the topmost planet of this universe. If one can understand this indestructible tree of illusion, then one can get out of it. So far, so good? All right. This process of extrication should be understood. That's why we study Bhagavad-gītā, just for that point, right? Why are we studying Bhagavad-gītā? Because we want to achieve liberation. We want to go back home, back to Godhead. That's why we study Bhagavad-gītā. We're not studying Bhagavad-gītā so that we can take birth again, are we? No. All right? In the previous chapters, it has been explained that there are many processes by which to get out of the material entanglement. And up to the 13th chapter, we have seen that devotional service to the Supreme Lord is the best way. And apart from what Krishna says in the Gita, Prabhupada has said it over and over and over and over and over again in the purports. Correct? Krishna Kumar? All right. Now, the basic principle of devotional service is detachment from material activities and attachment to the transcendental service of the Lord. And I have discussed many times, you can't have both. Like I've given the example of the scale. You can't expect that my material activities increase and at the same time my spiritual, that's not possible. Something's got to give. Like the scale. One goes down, the other goes up. So you're either increasing your material activities and thereby decreasing your spiritual activities, or vice versa. Okay. The process of breaking attachment to the material world is discussed in the beginning of this chapter. Yes, it's the first 6 verses. That process is the first 6 verses of this chapter. Okay. The root of this material existence grows upward. This means that it begins from the total material substance, from the topmost planet of the universe. From there, the whole universe is expanded with so many branches representing the various planetary systems. So this is an analogy. The fruits represent the results of the living entity's activities, namely religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. So far, so good. You understand? Okay. Now, next paragraph. Now, there is no ready experience in this world of a tree situated with its branches down and its roots upward. But there is such a thing. That tree can be found beside a reservoir of water. We can see that the trees on the bank reflect upon the water with their branches down and roots up. In other words, the tree of this material world is only a reflection of the real tree of the spiritual world. You understood that. Okay, we'll go on. This reflection of the spiritual world is situated on desire. And for me, that is one of the most important sentences in this purport. It's all a question of what is your desire. Everybody has desire. Even in the Bhagavad-gītā, when it talks about becoming desireless, it doesn't mean like the Buddhists. No. Desireless, you actually cannot become desireless because you're living. As long as you live, you have to have desire because it's part and parcel of you because you're alive. We even say the will to live. Sometimes there's that story of that guy. He was climbing a mountain in the snow and he got frostbite. In order to survive, he had to cut off his own arm. So to survive, he cut off. The guy still lives. The guy's alive. It's a recent thing within the last so many years. But he had to do that. He had to cut off his arm in order. So there's this expression, the will to live. Or, sometimes say the adrenaline kicked in, right? And the guy was able to do something normally he couldn't do. But that will to live is part and parcel of the soul. So when you read in Bhagavad-gītā, desireless, it actually means no material desire. It does not mean no desires whatsoever, because that's not possible. What's that? Both. The will to live is either going to manifest in material desires or spiritual desires. Okay? Because that's why is that will to live? Because one of the symptoms of the soul is sat, eternality. So the soul does not want to experience something foreign or unnatural. The soul by nature is eternal. So that's why we are afraid of death. We try to fight death because inherently we understand, wait, I shouldn't. I should live. Make sense? Okay. Shall we go on, Krishna Kumar? All right. So, there's no ready. Okay, we said on desire. Desire is the cause of a thing's being situated in this reflected material light. In other words, sometimes the question is asked, why are we here in the material world in the first place? Desire. We want to be here. That's why we're here. Not that God threw us here and said, I don't like you, so I'm sending you to hell. No. We want this material world, and therefore God says, oh, is that what you want? Okay, you can be in the material world. Or you can say, I want to be in the reality in the spiritual world. So all you have to do is qualify yourself, and then you can be in the spirit. So Prabhupada said, so what is the intensity of that desire? What does it take to achieve liberation? What does it take to achieve the spiritual world? And Prabhupada said, intense desire. That you're willing to do anything to get there. For instance, very soon they're going to have the Olympics. So who's going to win the competition? First of all, it's going to be the person who's practiced, who's physically fit, and he has to have the will. And then, according to Bhagavad-gītā, he has to have the blessings of God, or destiny, which is the hand of God. And you all know, because you've read Mahabharata, This question comes up repeatedly in the Mahabharata. And I just read this week where Kripa is telling Ashvatthama, because Ashvatthama wants to avenge the death of Duryodhana and especially his father Drona. So Ashvatthama is saying, I'm going to go in the middle of the night while they're sleeping, and I'm going to kill all the remaining Pandavas. So Kripa told him, wait. There are two things that govern every action. One is the endeavor, and the other was the sanction of the Lord, God, destiny, or fate, whichever word you're comfortable with, but it's all the same thing. Just like tomorrow there are two big football games. So both teams are going to fight like anything, but only one person's going to win. So we'll see what is their destiny, who actually is going to get it. Because they're both going to do the exertion, but we shall see. Yes, that means, luck means, do you have the pious credits in your account where God says, okay, boom. Why did the Pandavas come out successful and not the Kauravas? A couple of reasons. One was the Pandavas had the true right cause, not the Kauravas. So the side of justice was on the side of Pandavas. Also, who did they have on their team? Krishna. Duryodhana could have picked Krishna, couldn't he? When Duryodhana went to Dwaraka, he could have had Krishna. What did he take instead? The army. And that army, even though it was Krishna's army, done. Arjuna took Krishna, and Duryodhana said, oh my God, I can't believe it. Duryodhana couldn't believe that Arjuna took Krishna, and he got the army. He thought Arjuna was stupid. But Arjuna was not stupid, because Duryodhana did not understand who was Krishna. And I just read, while Duryodhana is dying, now he starts, you know what? Maybe Krishna was God. But then in the next moment he said, yeah, but why did he take the side of the Pandavas? That means I don't like this God. So even at the end, when he realizes, right, he's lying there, the vultures are coming, waiting for, because he's slowly dying, so the vultures are just waiting, come on, die, so we can eat you. And he has some idea, oh, maybe Krishna is God. But why did he take the side of the Pandavas? He's not a very good God. So even up to the end, he didn't get it. He couldn't get it. All right, shall we get back to point? Jai. Are you enjoying this? It's okay? Good. Let's see. Desire is the cause of a thing's being situated. One who wants to get out of this material existence must know this tree thoroughly through analytical study. So that's why we read this book. We read Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam takes all these concepts and expands on it. Bhagavad-gītā is 700 verses. Bhagavatam is 18,000. So there's a lot more information. Same subject matter, but lots more in detailed information in Srimad Bhagavatam. Then he can cut off his relationship with it. Again, that guy who was climbing the mountain had to cut off his arm in order to survive. So we also have to cut off our attachment to this material world. Then you can get, but as like my spiritual master used to say, if you're even attached to one rasgula, you cannot get liberated. Can't be attached, right? And for me, I learned that every time I went to India throughout my life, I realized, oh, you think you're not attached? You are very attached, Nirantara. Because you all know, going to India, all of us, right here in Southern California, we have our nice houses and our nice cars, and we have our comfortable beds. But let's say you go to India, you visit ashram, they're not having the big thick bed, right? And they don't have necessarily AC in the ashrams. Maybe you have a fan, all right? And I remember when I went to Mayapur, I was staying in the guest house. So in the guest house, they gave me that thing, citronella, to keep the mosquitoes away. But to go to the bathroom, I had to get out and go to the separate, right? And as soon as I got to the bathroom, the mosquitoes came. As soon, right? In your little, nice little hut, you have your net, right? You sleep, have you done that? Sleep in a net, right? You have your little bed, and then you have a net to keep the mosquitoes out. And you have the citronella burning. All right, but now it's time to go to the bathroom. So you have to go outside, and there's a light, right? So as soon as you enter the stool room, that's where all of them oh, look at this. And they look at me. Ooh, nice American blood. Come on, feast. We're going to have a feast. Welcome. So in India, at least for me, I realized, oh my God, how spoiled I am. I remember when I was in Vrindavan, 1975, I wanted to mail a letter. And so they said, okay, you got to go to the post office. So it's about a 20-minute walk to the post office. But then to mail the letter is another hour, if the guy's there when you go. Everything is different. You know India better than me. It's not like here in America. It's a whole different world. All different. And you realize how spoiled and how attached you are to your material comforts of life. What's that? Yes, I get sick all the time. Okay, let's continue. This tree, being the reflection of the real tree, is an exact replica. Everything is there in the spiritual world. The impersonalists take Brahman to be the root of this material tree, and from the root, according to Sankhya philosophy, come Prakriti, Purusha. Okay, Prakriti means material nature, Krishna Kumar. Purusha means the enjoyer. We studied that in the previous chapter. The three gunas, that was chapter 14. Then the five gross elements, earth, water, fire, air, sky. Then the 10 senses, you know what those are: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, throat, hands, legs, genital, anus. And then the mind. In this way, they, meaning the Sankhites, divide up the whole material world into 24 elements. If Brahman is the center of all manifestations, then this material world is a manifestation of the center by 180 degrees. So you draw a circle, Krishna Kumar. The center is Brahman. The bottom half is the material world. Top half is the spiritual world. Correct? The material world is the perverted reflection. So the spiritual world must have the same variegatedness, but in reality. Because, why is he making that point? He's making that point because impersonalists do not accept spiritual variety. That's why he's making this whole point. Impersonalists do not accept spiritual variety. All they accept is oneness, Brahman, no variety. But we, devotees, followers of Krishna and Srimad Bhagavatam, accept that there is spiritual variety. What is spiritual variety? In Krishna's abode, there are people, there are cows, there are buildings, there's the Yamuna water, there is variety. But the impersonalists say, no, 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 no. The impersonalists say, all there is this oneness, no variety. So that's what he's making the distinction. The Prakriti is the external energy of the Supreme Lord, and the Purusha is the Supreme Lord himself. And that is explained in Bhagavad-gītā. Since this manifestation is material, it is temporary, because we already learned that in Bhagavad-gītā. By definition, anything material has temporary existence, including your body. And you're all experiencing that year by year. Where's your 5-year-old body? It's gone, but you're still here, are you not? You remember your 5-year-old body. How old are you? You're how old? 13. All right. So you all remember when you were 13, where you were, what you were doing. Where is that body? It's gone. And one day, sorry to say, one day we will all be in the Brea funeral parlor, and everyone will come and see, oh, there's Narantara, right? So and then we'll be put into the fire, right? We're Hindus, right? We're gonna put the body into the fire, right? And some people are gonna cry. Some people are gonna say, "Thank God he's gone. I'm so glad." Hey, everybody has enemies. Nobody's exempt, right? So the body is the best example of how what he's saying here. Everything materials. Your car. You might have driven your car for 100,000, 200,000 miles, but after a while, it's a clunker. It's a material thing. Got to get rid of it. It doesn't work. Your clothes. This is the example Krishna gives. Your clothes. After a while, like my wife says, I'll ask her, where's that shirt? Where's that kurta? She goes, that thing had so many holes in it, I had to get rid of it. Right? But that was my favorite. Yeah, or else I get too fat for it, So that's the nature of any material thing. It's going to eventually dwindle and vanish. Let's go on. A reflection is temporary, for it is sometimes seen and sometimes not seen. But the origin from whence the reflection is reflected is eternal. The material reflection of the real tree has to be cut off. When it is said that a person knows the Vedas, it is assumed that he knows how to cut off attachment to this material world. So the opposite of this is, it doesn't mean I know the Vedas simply because I can quote this, and I know all the stories. No. What he's saying here, this is it. If you actually know the Vedas, then you know how to get out. The example I give, if you were in a prison, the idea is to one day get out of the prison, not to remain a prisoner. You want to get out.